Hi, my name is Alex, and this is Andrew B. from Cambridge Narrows. And today we're going to be interviewing Mr. Arthur Jones on October the 20th, 2010. We hope you enjoy listening to his stories. Mr. Arthur Jones, we would like to thank you for your time and sharing your life experiences.
Well, you're entirely welcome.
I understand you were born on April 13th, 1924, and still live in the same house.
That's correct, as far as I know.
When you think about this time, you must have many memories.
Yeah, a lot of memories in the old house here.
Where was your house located?
It was 1888 Lakeview Road, in the village of Cambridge Narrows. In those olden days, it was known as Lakeview. That was the school district here. One-room school.
What was it like growing up in a family in the late 20s?
Oh, I guess it seemed to be quite interesting. As I remembered, it's a long ways to remember way back there, almost 87 years ago, and I suppose the first 4 or 5 years I didn't remember too much. Then, from then on, I remember a lot of things. And there's been a lot of changes in that time. I don't know whether they're all for the better or not, but we're still here.
How many members were in your family?
3.
3.
Just when I was a little fella, yeah. Just my mother and father, and my grandmother and grandfather were still living when I first remember. Yeah. And then I guess when I got to be about 10 years old, my mother and father adopted a boy from the Protestant Orphanage home. So that made 4 of us here.
I understand you had no electricity until 1938.
What was it you said?
I understand you had no electricity until...
That's right. December, just before Christmas, 1938, they turned the power on. We had lights.
What was it like without power?
With the old power we had, well, we had lights in the kitchen and the house, and a lantern to go to the barn with, and that was from kerosene power, kerosene oil. Sometimes the wick would get up a little bit, and it'd burn, and you'd have a black in your chimney. You have to clean it, you wouldn't see anything.
Where did you go to school?
I went up about a mile, not quite a mile, up the road here to the Lakeview School. And we didn't have a lot of people going to school, a lot of children. There was only sometimes 7, sometimes up as high as 10, that was about all. Went to from grade 1 to grade 8, inclusive. So.
What can you recall about your school year's experience?
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't recall too much other than we had to recess in the morning and one in the afternoon. And a lot of times I walked home for dinner. wasn't too much excitement with only that many pupils. Oh, the worst, well, the worst, or the problem was there was so many, mostly girls and not many boys. How would you like that?
I understand you worked in the woods when you were 13 years old.
Yes, yeah. When I was 13, I guess year I was 14, I went to the woods and worked all winter. We still stayed at home here, but we worked in the woods, cutting logs and pulpwood and mine props, and the mine props we had to shave those by hand with a draw knife, and they were 8 feet long, and we trucked them to St. John. They loaded them in the boats there and took them to I'm not sure, but somewhere across the ocean.
When you needed to travel, what type of car did you have?
My father had a 29 Chev, a four-door Chev. And the roads were rough. In the wintertime, probably you had to lay the car up because the roads weren't plowed. And we had, everybody had to get their team out and hook onto a snowplow and plow the roads. So if they were plowed. Most of the time we just walked on top of the snow.
Did you have a crank engine or just an engine?
Just English. Well, that's what you want to know, is it?
Yeah. Did you have a crank engine? Or?
No. It was, yeah, you could crank it to get it started, but she started on a battery with a switch, same as they do now. But if your battery got down, you could dig out the crank and get her on front of her and wind her up. Maybe she'd start, maybe she wouldn't. If you cranked enough, she'd go after a while. But you had to watch out because sometimes it would kick back, and if you didn't have your hold of the crank right, it would kink back, and some people had their arms broke by that. So you see, there's a lot easier today to turn the switch. If it don't go, you have to get a boost.
Go.
Growing up in the 1920s, food had not been plentiful. How to eat food is survive, especially in the winter months.
Well, I guess we were very fortunate here. Our family had lots of food, and we had cattle, and so we had milk. And my father would kill pigs, and we would cure them. We'd have bacon and hams, and sometimes he'd kill a beef, and we would, in the wintertime, probably he would sell part of it and keep a quarter or maybe half of it. And if it was good cold weather, we'd just hang it out in the shed or somewhere, and it would freeze. But then if we had mild weather, they would just wrap it up in a bag or a big blanket or something, take it down to the barn and bury it in the oat bin, and it would stay frozen in that great big bin of oats. Oh, quarter as big as this kitchen, and you'd dig that way down and bury it in there, and that would stay all winter until you needed some, and you'd dig it out and cut off what you needed for the time. And when we were in the woods and had camps in the woods, we would have meat and it would freeze, and it usually, if it was hanging outside, we always hung it out in what we call the dingle. That was between the bunkhouse and the cookhouse. It was open sides, and we'd hang the meat there, and it would freeze, and the cook would always go out and cut a piece off anytime, whenever they wanted to have a meal for the men. So that's the way we kept our meat in the woods.
I would like to ask if you could share what your special times at home and how you celebrate Christmas.
Well, when school closed down and we had some holidays, why, about the first thing at Christmas time, we would have to go out and cut a Christmas tree and try to get a good one. Sometimes we'd have to cut 2 or 3 to satisfy Mother. And I guess that's about all. They had the trimmings left over from the years before, and hang those on. I guess that's about all I can tell you. Maybe we played in the snow and slid downhill and snowshoed or skied or was skating on the lake while we'd go skating, have bonfires at night, get all together around the bonfire and have a big time skating. I used to go down and see Mother, and we'd skate around the bonfire.
What did you find activity? Did you have a bicycle?
Yeah, I got my first bicycle when I was 10 years old. And I had a good time on that, and I guess about that time I had an adopted brother, and they didn't have another bicycle for him, so I used to take him on the crossbar, and that worked all right for a while. But then one day we were going up the road here, and I had him on the crossbar, and he somehow got a foot in the front wheel and ruined the front wheel, took all the spokes out and upset us on the road, and bruised us up a bit, but we come out of it.
Yeah. Did you have a baseball and a bat?
Yeah, we always had baseballs and bats, and sometimes the baseball or the bats weren't too fancy, but we still played with them.
Did you swim in the lake?
Oh, in the summertime, that was a big time to swim in the lake. Yep, maybe every day, or try to have a swim every day. When it was fit, when it wasn't too cold, or the wind wasn't blowing too hard. Okay.
Robert Hess.
Today we have many electronic handheld and power television with around sound. What type of electronic did you have growing up?
Well, we didn't have. We had a radio, but it was run by batteries. That was before we had the hydro. And when the batteries ran down, we didn't have any radio, so we had to go get the new batteries or get them charged. So I remember we had one right here in the corner. It was set on a stand, and it was all kind of a tin box about like that and that. And I remember the name of it. It was a DeForest Crosley. And that's about all I can tell you about our first radios.
Do you remember in your first television?
Yes, I remember that well. I sold some farm machinery for Sussex Farm Supplies in this area. And when televisions first came out, they were selling televisions. So we thought we should have one. So we did get one, and that was in the early 50s. And I can't remember now what it cost, but I think a lot of money in those days. There seemed to be a lot of money. We didn't have much money in those days. So I guess that's I can't remember the name of it now, but anyway, we had an aerial up on the roof. But we had good reception here anyway. The make of television we had at that time, I've just checked with Mother, and she said it was a Sylvania. So, okay, thank you.
In your opinion, what is one of the highlights of your life?
When I got married and married Norma Cromwell. She was just from across the lake, over in the narrow side. And we moved in with my mother and father, and my grandmother was living at that time. And I guess we started having a family. We had 4 children before my grandmother passed away. And then we had, a few years after that, Mother and Dad, we built them a house down the road here about a mile, and then we stayed here by ourselves and had some more family. We had 7. So I guess that's about all I can tell you. They've all grown up and haven't gone away far from home, but and they're not bad kids. They're not as good as Mother and I, but they're pretty good. Enough of that.
Can you tell me a bit about how you got married?
Well, I'll try. It's a long while ago. Getting on to 67 years ago. Will be next in December. No.
June.
No, June. I'm sorry. And we were married on the 27th of June in 1944. We had the 38 Chev, my father's car. So once I got married, I thought I should have a chair in that. So I went down and picked Norma Cromwell on the other side of the lake, picked her up. We went up to the Baptist parsonage in Cody's, and Preacher Hopkins, he was a wonderful old friend of ours. He used to come here to the house, and he married us. Well, I went with my uncle up there to the parsonage prior to that, and he always knew that Norma and I were having a friendship, I guess. And he said, when you want to get married, Arthur, why, I'll marry you. So that's where we were married. And we went on, thought we were going to start to Prince Edward Island on our honeymoon, but after we got married, we went to Sussex, and then we only had $48. So we went on to almost Salisbury, and we decided we'd stay there all night. So we got a little cottage, or stayed all night, and then they used us pretty good there at the farm. They had a farm there, and we'd got some milk from them and so forth. And then we started for Prince Edward Island the next day. Then I guess we got lost a little bit, and we decided we were going back and stay where we did the night before. So we stayed there another night and then come home. Mama got homesick, and I guess I was homesick too.
Mr. Arthur Jones, thank you for your time you have shared with us. We have enjoyed listening to your stories. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I hope I've been some help to you to make you understand how we used to live and how